Hello, this is Ashley the Boot Babe. I am your host, and today I can't wait to share with you something that is so special to me. I interviewed Stephanie Eagletail, and she was on the Indigenous Fashion Podcast. Some of you know I have several podcasts that highlight women and men from all over the world. They do amazing things with their creative abilities. I'm so excited that you get to hear this podcast. Her style is absolutely Western and absolutely Indigenous. She is the prime example of someone who has transcended culture and is doing whatever she wants her way, teaching people how to sew, how to make amazing garments, and her coats are to die for. She also had this incredible snowsuit at a ski tour in Canada. If you haven't checked that out, please do. So enjoy Stephanie Eagletail's interview on Indigenous Fashion Podcast. Thanks for being here. And as always, if you love this podcast, please like and subscribe and check out our Instagram for opportunities to win. Hey, it's Ashley, and I am live on Indigenous Fashion Podcast today, and I'm so excited because today I have a very special guest, Stephanie Eagletail. She is the owner of Stephanie Eagletail Designs, and she lives in Alberta, Canada. Welcome, Stephanie.
Hi, Janita. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here. I've been watching your progress as you've been on social media. Tell me a little bit about who you are and where you're from.
My name is Stephanie Eagletail, and I am from Tsuu T'ina Nation, which is in Treaty 7 of, it's the southern part of Alberta. Calgary is our neighbor. And yeah,
You've been living there your whole life?
no, always back and forth from Tsuu T'ina and Saddle Lake. So my mom was a single mom to four of us girls. She brought us to her community, which is a Cree community called Saddle Lake First Nation, a little bit more near Edmonton, Alberta, little northern Alberta.
Were you doing fashion your whole life? Tell me how you got into this place you're at right now.
I guess I think where it really stemmed was I always loved clothes as a kid. I would always dress up my sisters and make them my models, and we'd have little fashion shows. But it wasn't until, I started drawing little people, little dolls, and little clothes, and making little blueprints out of like cardboard because I come from like real very humble beginnings in life. My mom was a single mom, but it wasn't until I was 16 years old when I made my first Pendleton coat with my mom and my auntie.
Okay, this is amazing. I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of people don't understand the heritage and traditions that are passed on inside of your culture. What is your traditional name, first of all?
My traditional name is Kanawasiatsika, which means woman who walks over the Red Mountains.
Beautiful. What is your process for reaching people with your fashion? Is it all Indigenous people that wear your fashion or is it across the world? Tell me a little bit about how it works.
I think how I really reached out to where I'm at today is due to the sewing lessons that I've created and sharing the knowledge with other people, mainly across Canada at the moment. I started in 2022, March actually of 2022, and facilitated my first class in Northern Alberta.
Let me
And then
dive in
from
a little bit right here, just so that the viewers can understand. Tell me your history up until that point of what you've been doing, where you were in the fashion industry.
basically, it was mainly from the lessons. That's what excelled my passion for fashion.
But you had been
What
making things, right? You had your own designs and you had been making things and selling them traditionally, just a traditional route of make something, sell it, provide the community with something to wear, provide yourself with a fun outlet. And then you had an idea, hey, maybe I could do these lessons and I think it would work. It was like wildfire.
Yeah, basically from that first coat when I was 16, I made a few more after that. I ended up having my oldest daughter at 18 years old, the young mom. And then I had three other kids in my early 20s. So I have four children, full time mom mode. And I put my sewing aside to take care of my family and my late grandfather. And it wasn't until COVID that's when I started sewing again because the isolation, being home, and I needed an outlet to keep myself busy. And I started sewing again and started by making skirts and ceremony dresses. And then I started working again with the Pendleton coats. It was from that point where my friend had asked me if I wanted to teach a women's group. So that's like a little timeline of the fashion, the sewing.
And how many people have you taught now?
From March of 2022 to today, I think we're at about 360 people across Canada, different First Nations across Canada. I've been as far as Northwest Territories, Yellowknife, as far east as Toronto, as far west as Lac Willems, BC, which is along the coast. And yeah, it's brought me to a lot of really beautiful places around Canada.
That's incredible. So if someone wants to learn this trade, anyone can learn it? Anyone? Or is it just on the nations? Tell me a little bit about where you're at with all that.
Anyone can learn. I've taught all walks of life. And for me, the coats, it's not a form of any cultural appropriation or anything. I just feel like it's for me, it's more of an appreciation, teaching and sharing that knowledge with other people. And then they gain a skill set for themselves as well. Because I always encourage people to keep making them, make some for your moms, your dads, your family. Just keep going, keep busy. And yeah, because a lot of First Nations that I've been to are very isolated. Some of them are third world type living situations where it's a lot of poverty and for them to make a $1,500 coat is they get shocked.
I think it changes people's trajectory in life. You come into their life, they're going in one direction, you teach them a skill, and suddenly they have a new trajectory. They can help themselves, their families have better lives. And I feel like that's why I wanted to connect with you, is because I see you making a huge impact in the way that women and men that are learning this trade are able to find their value. Tell me a little bit about some stories where you've been able to connect with women that have changed radically.
Uh, There was one group, I think they were the youngest group I taught, a youth group from Labrador. They flew out to my community just last month in February. They were so shocked seeing my reserves because Tsuu T'ina Nation is one of the most economically developed First Nations in Canada. We're very prominent with business and
I would
they
say
were
you're very
shocked.
hip. For anyone that's not listening to this, you are the hip nation. Okay. I see this from the outside. I'm from Idaho, the white girl from Idaho. So I
Yeah.
watch, I've been studying this. That's why I host this podcast, is because there
Mhm.
needs to be people understand and learn that some of these are third world and some of these are hip. And you got the hip one right now going on, girl. So I'm sure that they mouse were on the ground.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like definitely it's based on location, I feel. A lot of the isolated reserves that have a lot of the boil water advisories and all the social and health inequities and adversities and challenges. Those are the very isolated reserves. And to just be able to have a one-on-one conversation with either a youth or an adult, whether it's a man or a woman or an elder. And it just gives me a connection where I feel like we just open art through creating clothes and coats. And a lot of the people, too, for example, that youth group that traveled to my community, what we did was I bought them all a journal, brought them to our museum. I told them before we continue for the afternoon, I made all of us, we all sat in a circle and I made them write 5 things that they loved about themselves and that they were grateful for. So we were talking like affirmations, we did a little meditation, and some of them never experienced that and they've never actually wrote things about themselves that they love. So I'm giving self-awareness through the teaching of the sewing. And they were really grateful for that experience and they were able to go home with it. And I encourage do it daily because their community is isolated as well. And they have a high suicide rate. And just to be able to give someone a journal my heart felt at ease because they felt at ease. And yeah, it's just those connections in that way. Yeah.
Really powerful, life changing. changes the way that the world works. And that's where we're at right now. You have 4 children, which is amazing. Good job, mom. You're brave. And are they into sewing with you? Or tell me a little bit about what they're interested
My daughters will help me. Like I have 2 girls and 2 boys. My daughters, sometimes they'll help do cutting if I need help with cutting. If I need a sleeve sewn, they'll come, but I don't see the passion like I did when I was their age. For me, with my children, I see all of their gifts and they're all unique and different in their own ways. And that's what I want to encourage. My daughters love music. They love guitars. They love spirituality and tradition, like our traditional ceremonies, really regaining with their identities as well. And my sons, I'm a full-time hockey mom, so they're hockey players. They all have their own personalities. They're all
I
special.
I love that. Talking about how when people have their own gifts and inside of each tribe, you would become towards your gift, right? You would like, if you were a hunter, then you would become in the hunting party. And if you were a sewer, and I feel like we've gotten away from that here. We should all be doctors or lawyers, and that's just not the truth. So I applaud you for encouraging your children to be whatever they would like to be, however they'd like to be it. I am impressed with that.
Yes.
Where can someone buy your goods? If I'm listening or someone's listening, how do we get to you and buy your goods?
Yeah. So right now, the lessons have really consumed me. Like my whole year for 2024 is booked with sewing lessons. So we're doing anywhere from 3 to 4 classes a month and groups anywhere from 5 to 30 people. So that really takes a lot of my time. But when I'm able to create custom pieces or get some products out, we'll put it on the website. And I'm thinking by June, that's our goal date to have things for sale. Like the website will be flowing then. But I'm also in the process of recording tutorials for online lessons so that people will have access to create their own coats at home. And I really prefer teaching and showing the person how to make it themselves because when I make it, it takes a lot of energy. Like yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's your heart and soul, right? It's your blood, sweat, and tears. I
Yeah,
am so excited that you're putting it out to the public in video format. So I will keep anyone who's listening updated on this. Indigenous Fashion Podcast has been going on. I was in Cannes, France, and I got to see amazing fashion show with so many Indigenous people. Tell me a little bit about, have your pieces been shown other places, or what's the feeling around that?
Yeah, I've done New York Fashion Week twice. So I did it last year, 2022. I did a 10-piece collection. And then 2023, I did a 20-piece collection in New York. And yeah, it's a lot of work. But it felt good to be there to represent being an Indigenous designer, but also being able to showcase that a world lens.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that powerful that people can see you in a different light. I'm so grateful that you've been on today. Thanks for being on, Stephanie.
for sure.
I will keep everyone updated on the Indigenous Fashion Podcast. And if someone wants to get a hold of you, they would find you on Instagram. What's your Instagram?
Steph_Eagletail.
Okay, perfect. Steph_Eagletail. I'll take that in the notes. And we will catch up again after you have some sewing lessons, and we'll find some people
Sure.
with some cool stories and maybe
Awesome.
talk to them about how they've changed their world. So thank you so much for being on today, Steph.
Yes, thanks for having me.
You're
Nice to
welcome.
meet you.
Very nice to meet you. I'm very honored and very grateful.
Great. Okay, have a good day. Nani at
Thank
Sunday.
you. This is Ashley on Indigenous Fashion Podcast. Thanks for being here. If you have questions, please email ifashionpodcast@gmail.com. You just heard Stephanie Eagletail on Indigenous Fashion Podcast. Go to Indigenous Fashion Podcast on Instagram and make sure you follow along there. Also, like and subscribe to Stephanie Eagletail Designs to see more of her amazing coats. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And just remember, it's always a good time to wear cowgirl boots.